Tesla must go with Robotaxi in China. It's not a matter of if or whatever. It's basically in order to develop FSD as fast as they can, in order to deploy Robotaxi as fast as they can at a scale 10 times larger than anywhere else, they must go through China. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Next Big Future. I have my guest, Randy, with me. He's and I are going to discuss my theory that Tesla must go with Robotaxi in China. It's not a matter of if or whatever. It's basically in order to develop FSD as fast as they can, in order to deploy Robotaxi as fast as they can at a scale 10 times larger than anywhere else, they must go through China. So welcome, Randy.
Okay, well, that'll be fun to hear about, and I'll probably have something to say about that.
Right. And Randy is well-versed in Robotaxi and FSD, so a good person to discuss what I'm thinking about. So, as we know, Baidu and Tesla have done a deal where Baidu will supply mapping to Tesla for their FSD, and Tesla met with the premier of China, the number two person in China, not just number two in cars, something like that. Number two, other than Xi Jinping, person in China, in order to get permission to do FSD, full self-driving, in China, and they welcome that. So the reason why that I say that Tesla must go through, and also why China would also want Tesla to do it in Robotaxi and FSD in China, is because of several things. One is China has already approved 100 cities to do Robotaxi over the next year or two. They've given licenses to companies. Baidu has Apollo, a startup that does Robotaxi at Waymo scale. They're as big as Waymo, actually bigger than Waymo. They have 10 cities versus Waymo doing 3 or 4. They have 500 cars versus Waymo doing like 300 or something like that. And they have more rides, more rides given out, paid rides, than Waymo does. And there's a dozen other companies, 6 near the same size as Baidu in China doing Robotaxi. I have an article which discusses the China Robotaxi industry. But if you add up the Robotaxi companies in China, you're looking at 2,000 Robotaxis in that range this year, and they're expanding fast. By the end of the year, Baidu alone says they'll have 1,000 Robotaxi cars and drivers, and then next year they want to be in 65 cities, up from 10 up to 65. So they're looking at 10xing what they're doing by next year. So 5,000 cars.
Wow.
So
now,
China
are all of the cars currently using LiDAR and radar and all these different systems, and are they all geofenced?
Yes.
Okay.
They're all hypermapped using LiDAR and geofenced into those locations. Yes, so that's how they're doing. They're also pretty much all using NVIDIA chips.
Oh, okay.
They're using NVIDIA Orin or NVIDIA Thor, which are the self-driving chips from NVIDIA. Okay. So not like it's homegrown China technology. Mm-hmm. They've taken technology from NVIDIA for the chips and for the software, and they're applying it. So then switching to, okay, I'm going to use Tesla for their hardware 4, hardware 5, and then their cameras. It's not like, but then we're going from China only manufacturing to depending upon US, well, you're depending upon NVIDIA right now.
Right.
So it's the switching of like, do I depend on NVIDIA or do I depend on Tesla? So the switch is not that big a deal to them, right? But one of the companies, NIO, they're doing ADAS with driver assist, autopilot-like system, and they're going into 792 cities, right? That's 99% of the China cities. They have roughly 800 major cities, and they have smaller towns and stuff, which maybe only have 50,000, 100,000 people, whatever. So they have 800 cities, probably like 250,000, 500,000 or more that they're going to go into. And so one, that means they have them all hyper mapped. And then 2, that they have license to do that. And they're using LiDAR on their driver assist. So they use 1 to 3 LiDAR on their driver assist versus 8 for a robotaxi. And a robotaxi would also have other sensors, more sensors, ultrasonics, and other things that they have on these things. But China has done that with a $27,000 car versus a more expensive car.
Right.
But I think the cost of these robotaxis is related to how many staff and people do I have remote joystick driving these things
Right.
versus the cost of the hardware itself.
Right.
So why would Tesla need to go through China to do all this thing? One is if they do it, they can get to 800 cities lickety split, maybe 2026, maybe 2025. They can go to many cities, but then they need a bunch of cars. They have partners, if they do it with China, where they could go to 5,000 cars by the end of this year. If they announced it August 8th, 50,000 next year. And if they accelerate the plan, they can go even faster to the number of cities that they could want to do it with. Right. The other thing is they said that they are no longer compute constrained or data constrained on FSD improvement.
Right.
They said that they were constrained on validation and verification.
Right.
So Tesla currently has on the order of 100, maybe a few hundred internal drivers. So not just employees, but employees who are professional drivers testing their FSD 12.4, 12.5, 12.6.
Right.
Right. So if they do a deal with Baidu and the 6 other top companies in China, suddenly they would have 5,000 professional drivers with cars and vehicles, maybe 50,000, 100,000 by next year, right? So then instead of, if I comparing 100 drivers to say 10,000, then they could test them 100 times as fast. So instead of 100 days to validate, I can do 1 day to validate. So if the compute build took me 2 weeks to do it, and then my validation was taking me 100 days, now suddenly I can do it in 1 day. So I can go from 12.4 to a released, ready to go to Tesla employees and then to the first people within 3 weeks or something like that. I can reduce the time to go from major versions of FSD down from 2 months down to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that is a huge thing. So it's not just that we go into 12.4, 5, 10 times better, 12.5, 20 times, 0.5 times better than 12.3, but that could, with the deal, go from 12.6 to 13 to 14 to 15 to completely solve Robotaxi by the end of the year versus a still very good pace with the new version 12 might be a year faster, right? It's like, because they're going like doubling, tripling the amount of miles I get every month. Then if there's no limit on that, they still solve, with the 500,000 mile, nearly perfect Robotaxi by the end of next year. Go ahead.
So the part that I missed in there, do the cars that Baidu and these other 5 companies in China, the ones that they have on the road now, the ones that they're going to be putting on the road in the next 12 months, in addition to LiDAR, radar, whatever, they also do have like 8 cameras?
Yes, they also have cameras. Yes, they
I
also have
see.
8 cameras.
Okay, all right.
But the thing is, I'm saying that, and Baidu's general manager of self-driving, who says he wants to work with Tesla FSD. So it's not like me making this up.
Right.
It's like
no, I got that. Yeah, I understood that.
So for the people who have not heard, the general manager of Baidu says, I have this Waymo level stuff. I want Tesla's FSD to go wider, bigger, and faster. So the people say, well, Waymo's ahead. And like, the guy who's like has a freaking company and he's working the technology is saying Tesla stuff is better.
Yeah.
NVIDIA, Jensen Huang said Tesla stuff is better. And he's selling them the chips that are doing all this stuff, right? So people who are like, I'm a competitor, and I'm saying that guy's better than me.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like me saying it, it's like them saying it.
Yeah, I don't think you could ask for a better person to push to pump your FSD program than Jensen Huang. I mean, who else has a better position to be able to know what everybody else is doing right now?
Right. And he says that they're way in the lead.
Far better.
So the people in the know, and it's like, oh, but he's only doing it because he's the customer. It's like he's running a $2.5 trillion company
with many of these people as his customers.
With many of these people as customers, he's not making stuff up for the sake of making stuff up. He's calling it like it is, because what incentive does he have when he's a billionaire to say I'm going to lie about something? It's anyway. So that's they're ahead and they would adopt it. And then they would say, okay, we would swap out the cars. We'd go to Tesla cars,
Yeah,
right? To do the robotaxi testing.
right,
They would start making cars with the cameras in the roughly the same position. So
right.
it'd be ED conversion, right? They could probably do it initially in I think as little as 6 to 12 months, right?
Yes.
But it'd be faster than the 4 years
Yeah,
for a traditional company to do it.
right,
And they would want to get to 1 million cars as soon as possible because that would give them Uber scale,
right,
right? So Uber has 6 million cars. They're making about I don't know, $40 million a year or $80 million a year. And um, you need to have, even though you're going from like one shift of 8 hours to three shifts of 24 with a robotaxi, you still physically need, 1 million, 2 million cars in order to do that, to get that level of
right,
business. So
right.
they need to
Well,
quickly.
and I'm not sure that the scaling problem, I'm not sure that the cost for Uber or Lyft, in other words, their failure to be profitable may not really be a scaling problem. It could easily be because we've looked at these other companies. We've looked at Lucid, we've looked at Rivian, and what their overhead is, and what their capex is. I mean, it's just on a different level than Tesla. It's not even in the same game as Tesla in terms of the amount of capex and the amount of overhead. So it could be that that's also very true for the likes of Uber and Lyft.
Uber is profitable now. They've been profitable for
Barely.
a year. Yeah,
Yeah.
they've been profitable for a year. So it took them a while. So they basically were losing like $10 billion a year for the last
Right.
2 years before they became profitable. And now they are profitable at a substantial level. But Didi, which is the Uber equivalent in China, is also profitable. And
Oh,
they're
okay.
also a company going to do Robotaxi. But the thing would be then that you're not, Tesla would then partner with the
Right.
DDs and the robotaxis
Sure.
in China. China would then go to 800 cities. China would give the drivers, and then China starts saving on pollution. China starts saving on safer driving because they lose 250,000 people a year to car accidents,
Yeah.
and they have a $700 billion cost on the medical and the collision side
Yeah.
for all the accidents that they have. So nationally, it's a huge value to them to have safer roads with EVs to do
Right.
it.
Right.
And they're already pushing ahead. They want to do it. And now if you have a better solution, then it's all good for them. And then their companies, Baidu, and they're all the leaders in robotaxi, right? In full self-driving, where they're also for all their EV companies would
Mhm.
then adopt it. Xiaomi, Xpeng, Huawei, they would all adopt Tesla FSD to get it into their cars. BYD would do it too, so that all their EV vehicles would then have that technology as well. So that they're going to they're over 40% EVs in terms of new cars now, roughly 35%
Right.
now
Right.
of their 30 some million cars or 10 million cars. So in a 1-2 year transition to AVs, like automated vehicles, EVs, then they would have, 80% by 2026. That
Mhm.
could be, or by 2027, where it's
Mhm.
like 20 million cars out of 25 that would be with robotaxi level stuff, with all that, and then do this rapid conversion. So for
So,
Tesla, it would be worth, like, I can suddenly get into 20 million cars a year by 2026, 2027. I would then have robotaxi pilots in 800 cities potentially, at least 200 maybe by 2026, 2027. In terms of like both moving fast in the desired direction would be by Tesla massively doing these deals in China. And then China, like I said, they have all the hyper mapping.
mhm.
So it's not just regular maps, it's like
Yeah.
hyper detailed maps that they have. And they would also have cameras and things where they are monitoring the streets already because they do that for
Right.
crime
Right.
and for other stuff. So updating it would be super easy. So in terms of like getting to a deployed, highly advanced system, going through the iteration debugging faster
Mhm.
over the next year, this would be the way to do it. Like EVs over half are in China. So the market for this thing is is there. Like if I want to do global EV, if I don't do China, I'm at, less than a third of the thing
Sure,
for
sure,
that
sure.
and the cities of doing it. So it's like, so that's, I say there's no other option than for no other practical option to any scale, not within like 10 times or even 50 times of what could happen over the next 2, 3 years with
With
Tesla. I
China.
think with China and Tesla.
And would you still think that Tesla would test by themselves in a city first? Would they, in the next few months, if they had a license, if they had the ability, would they still want to roll out 30, 40, 50 cars, 100 cars, whatever, in a city, a small city, to test all of these things and allow Baidu and others to see how that test is going in order to get a proof case? Or do you think they would just partner with Baidu straight out of the gate?
I think they partnered with Baidu straight out of the gate. They announced it August 8th,
Wow.
and also with the other companies, because doing a small deal someplace
Yeah.
is only because for some reason someone's got cold feet or something like that. It doesn't prove much. Like the small cruise Waymo Zooks thing
Right.
in Vegas or something like that. What did that show me? It doesn't show me squat, right? If I have a 12.4, 12.5 driving 5,000 miles without intervention, without critical intervention,
Mhm.
that's plenty proof, right?
Mhm.
And in terms of like the testing, if FSD is being tested in China now, I
Yeah.
think a 12 point whatever version, right?
Yeah.
So they have, nearly 2 million Teslas there,
Yeah.
right? They have zones in these cities where they're allowed to drive whatever they want.
Mhm.
So why wouldn't Baidu already have 100 Teslas being
Test.
tested right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like, why do they need to wait for anyone to do it? Like,
Yeah.
they have the license to do stuff, they would already be driving the vehicles, right? So, um, I we'd be amazed that they don't already have that due diligence. Why would the GM of Baidu be saying, yes, I want to use FSD once they get approved and all that kind of stuff?
Right.
Is he guessing? Is
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if he
Yeah.
doesn't have the cars there, it's like the guy is telling him, hey, this is good. Like, what you need to have this and this done, and they make some kind of like um CYA, statements, just because China's SEC or something like that, like, and there's also he doesn't want to get ahead of the China government.
Right. 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 Right.
So, like, but the China government's on board, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. So is there a flaw in my thinking?
The only flaw that I can think of in your thinking would be that we have not seen many such partnerships from Tesla.
Mhm.
Whether that's but the good news on the opposite side would be that Baidu is actually saying we'd like to have a partnership. Where
Mhm.
we haven't seen that, let's say in the United States, people saying, "Oh, I really want your heat pump. I really, I really understand why you've gone to 48, 48 volts. Let me do that too." I think there's some problems in terms of envy, of ego or whatever going on in the United States. I don't quite get it, and around the world, in Germany too. I mean, why is not one company yet? I mean,
Mhm.
it's what, 2 years since he came up with the new heat pump, the octave valve or whatever it's called. You would think
Mhm.
somebody would have said, you know what? Please make octave valves for us.
Mhm.
Drives me nuts. But anyway, but the fact that Baidu is saying, yeah, that might be, maybe that's the flaw in my thinking, is Elon might want the partnerships, but so far, for multiple reasons, people haven't done those partnerships.
Right. So I guess that's what's going to be telling on August 8th.
Yeah.
That which is for the people who don't know, the 8 is a lucky number in China. The word sounds like wealth and rich or something like that. So
And it's also his son's birthday.
yeah,
One
son's
of his
birthday.
sons, one of his
Yeah.
12, 15, however many sons. Anyway,
Right.
is
Right.
also August 8th. Yeah.
So I think this will be revealed over the next 2.5 months as we get to August 8th. That basically is 12.4 as amazing as it should be, and then do but it just makes sense to be like, if you want to go big, then with FSD, with Robotaxi, China's where 80% of the near term, the next 3 to 5 years, 90% of the near term opportunity would be, even if Europe and North America was to go as fast as you could conceive them going,
Right.
that China's ready to go faster because they already have said, here's a Robotaxi plan,
Yeah.
and we're gonna roll out. So, okay.
All right.
So
Well,
we'll,
and I'm afraid I'm not coming up with flaws. It seems to me that of course, I was the one that months ago said that I thought that Tesla should do a deal with Uber. I've had a
Mhm.
lot of my friends on my channel even come out and say, "Hey, they don't need a deal with Uber," and I'm like, I don't know. Uber's already got, what did you say, 5 million cars out there or something?
Yeah.
You've already got the infrastructure. You've already got the program. Oh, yeah, but they're a lousy company. They're not very good at what they do. Yeah, but, I just rode in a bunch of Uber cars on my vacation and,
Mm.
they picked me up within 2 or 3 minutes and they got me where I was going safely. And why wouldn't that be something you'd want to take advantage of? Anyway, so yeah, I think,
So just as a side to that, the Uber CEO on the last earnings call said he would be totally open to doing deals with the autonomous vehicle companies, and he cited Tesla and a startup, $1 billion startup. I think it's in the UK or something like that. Startup had some other funding and stuff, so they're trying to make a big deal about that. But it's I think if Tesla solves it, then the deals will come with Uber, with the China companies, with Didi in China, which is again the Chinese Uber.
I think in terms of the stock market, I think that an announcement on 8/8 that they had a deal with Uber and Baidu to actually supply them with the inference chip and with the cameras and and be partners in some way with regard to the app. I think that would probably be the even better than showing the physical vehicle.
Right,
I
right.
think Wall Street would get that.
Yes. Okay, so something that we're going to see, whether things are right or wrong, by August 8th, or if things don't get announced, I guess it could take longer. But I would expect some major reveals to happen and to confirm this theory or not. But I think Tesla must do a deal with the China companies on. I think it's likely going to be Baidu at least, and maybe some of the others. I think also with what Randy says, Uber as well. So like and subscribe to the channel. Also follow Randy on his channel and follow us on Patreon. The links are down below in the description. We'll talk to you next time.